Well, welcome. Good morning. It's so good to see you. For you here in the auditorium, if you're in undergrounds or our online campus, so glad that you made real life a part of your weekend. My name's Brendan. I'm one of the pastors around here. And as many of you know, I am going to be helping launch a real life campus in Canyon Country. So we're excited about that. It's going to be happening January 8th. Yep. Now, if you live in Canyon Country, I would love for this to become your home campus. I would love to talk to you about what we're going to be doing there and how the launch is going to happen. So email me, bconklin@reallifechurch.org, or come see me after a service. And actually, the Canyon High School, look at this. They set me up right here, the football team. Now, I was going to wear this, but they didn't realize I'm not as fit as I used to be. So I didn't really fit into that one. But many of you know, and could tell at one point I was a football stud. I know. It's all good. You tell me it all the time, and that happens. But no, as a kid, I wanted to be a star. And football, man, I felt like that's going to be the avenue. I'm going to definitely get into the sport, and my career is going to take off. And that started in Parks and Rec League. You go out there, and I'm like, I am going to be a skilled position, and they're going to be so amazed that, schools are going to want me to be there all the way back then. So I showed up for, Parks and Rec League, and I found out that Brendan Conklin is not a skilled position. He is a lineman all day long. So that was me. But what we would do is during practices, the coach would give linemen the opportunity to do one play in a skilled position at the end of a practice. And it was my turn, and I was like, I'm going to be a running back. I'm going to try it. I'm going to show you all what you're missing out on because you're going to want me to start. So the play's easy. I'm just supposed to hold on to the ball and follow the left guard. That's it. Hit the gap and go and do my touchdown dance when that happens, inevitably. So hike the ball, hand off the ball, I'm holding the ball, and I begin to go, but there's no hole. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a wall of people, and I'm like, well, I've seen what I'm supposed to do here. I saw Barry Sanders, I saw Emmitt Smith, I saw Walter Payton, and I know that dates me by the running backs that I'm mentioning, but I'm like, I know what to do. I need to jump over this wall. So I go, and I get 3 inches off the ground, and jump, hit the back of the players, that are on my team, and fall backwards. And I'm going, and I hold the ball just, tight enough in the right way to hit my lungs to knock my breath out, So I'm on the ground like, oh, man, I held on to it, all of that kind of stuff. The coach is like, are you okay? Everything, go to the sideline, get a breather, and gives me that look like, that's why you're not a running back, Brennan. So my NFL career kind of ended early, didn't continue on, but I love football, and we love football around here at Real Life, which is why we're doing this series with this football theme under further review. Because the NFL realized something that we all saw watching plays and being able to see it over and over and over again, that you missed a call. They began to do something called instant replay. So they could then see the play to see if they needed to change a call. Well, they even updated that further on, and they did a challenge where a team or a coach could throw a red flag and challenge a play saying, you missed the call, because everyone at home watching on TV saw that you missed a call, and now we are too. So the refs would get together and they would look at this play under further review because they wanted to make sure they were not missing plays. Well, there's someone in the Bible that did this very often, and his name was David. He was the second king of Israel, and he had a lot of roles in his life. As a young guy, he was a shepherd, and then a soldier, a king, a husband, a father, all of these things. And throughout his life, he would ask God, am I doing this well? Am I doing this the way that you would want me to do? Am I leading in such a way that you just respect what I'm doing? So what he would do is he would often just throw a challenge flag and say, God, review what I'm doing. Am I doing this like you would want? And he would write those down in the Psalms. It's the book of Psalms we have. They're prayers, they're songs, they're poems, they're all of these things, some filled with just joy and happiness, some sorrow and questions. And that's where we come to this one, Psalms 139, and he asks for God to review. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. He said, I'm going to throw the challenge flag, God, and help review me. Am I living the way you would want me to live? And that's what we're going to be doing during this series. We're just picking up that red challenge flag and we're throwing it and saying, God, review us. What are things that we could do to make us the best version of ourselves and live the life that you've called us to? So last week, I don't know if you were here or you caught it online. And if you didn't, you need to check out last week's message, because Rusty had one of the most irrelevant and honestly, for me, just impactful messages, and it was on complaining. And I know that none of us in here have issues with that, but it was great. And he challenged us to 21 days without complaining and wearing these wristbands. Is anyone wearing the wristbands? You got arms up? Yeah, there's a few of you. Some of you maybe take it off because the complaining was a little hard. Let's put it back on. It's all good. You can keep going. I have to admit, this is not the arm it stayed on. But it's been challenging to live a life of thankfulness and not complaining, and trying to do that because that is a life that God has called us to do. So please, if you weren't here for that message, check it out. But this week we're going to be looking at a different penalty, a penalty that's called unsportsmanlike conduct. So that's anything that happens in the game that is outside the general rules of what that sport is. So it could be something that's verbal, done after a play. It could be something that's physical, that's done after the play. But anything that they would say, man, this is outside of this sport. You cannot do that. Maybe a reaction or a phrase. So what I want to do is just show you a few moments in history of some unsportsmanlike calls. And you just clap if you remember these moments. Let's start with the first one. Albert Hainsworth stomping on someone's head. Anybody? All right, there's a few of you. You remember this moment? All right, how about the next one? Dennis Rodman kicking a cameraman. Yeah? I want a little bit more. It seems more people know that one. How about the next one? Roberto Alomar spitting in the umpire's face. Yes, because he didn't like the call. Hey, for those of you who didn't clap, watch more baseball. I'm just telling you. I'm just throwing it out there. All right? It's good for you. All right, how about the next one? All right, Mike Tyson biting the ear of Holyfield. Yeah? Okay, how about the next? Everything said at a presidential debate. Anybody? Okay, just kidding. Let's get that off the screen. All right, so what we have in most of those moments, not the last one, but what we have is a moment, what they said or what they did, man, it took away from the goal of that team or that individual in that sport. And if they just wouldn't have said it, or they just wouldn't have done it, man, it would have helped them, and they would have been able to further whatever their objective was. And if you could ask them, in some of those moments, they wish they could just take it all back. They wish they would have never said that word. They wish they would have never committed that action. They wish they could take it all back. And don't you have some of those moments? Because I know I do. A moment that maybe I said something or I did something that, man, I knew it right then. Oh, I'm going to regret this. One of mine is my wife and I, for our honeymoon, we went to Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii, and we were there, and it was awesome. And one of the days, we went to the other side of the island just because we were going to check it out. We were there, we're walking on this beautiful beach, the water is just crystal clear, and we decide, you know what, it's time to eat, so we're just going to walk until we find a restaurant that we want to go to. So we're on this walk. And then all of a sudden, my wife does an action like, oh, like you walk into a cobweb, that feeling. It looked like that. And she goes, I think a bug just hit me. And I'm looking around. I'm like, no, I don't see a bug. Oh, no, a bug didn't hit you. A bird pooped on you. That's exactly the reaction I had, all right? Apparently not the one I'm supposed to have on my honeymoon with my new wife, but I laughed, all right? She did not laugh, and there was our first fight. But no, But I know as soon as I did that, even though I felt it was humorous, and as I tell it to you right now, I still find it a little humorous, but I realize that's not the reaction I should have had. And honestly, if I could, I wish I could take that back. But we all have those moments, right? Some of them are really small and kind of insignificant, but some of them are really big. That we say something that after we've done it, man, I wish I would have not done that. Or I've committed that action that has really hurt the people around me, and I'm like, man, I really wish I could take that back. And there's something that we can do, everyone here, everyone joining online, if we practice something very simple, could help us live a life with more joy and less of those regretful moments. And that is self-control. Self-control. Everyone say it with me. Self-control. It kind of hurts, doesn't it? It's like, man, I really like the controlling of you all, but not really the controlling of me. Because it's something that's not very complex, but it's life-changing. It's very, very simple, but hard to put into practice. Because I know all of us at some point are going to get on the 5 and drive down, and someone's going to pull right in front of us and cut us off, and the thing you think is going to put you in prison. You know what I mean? But what call are you going to make? What choice are you going to make? Or maybe your son comes home and says, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, guess what? I quit my job. I don't have a plan, and I'm living with you. And it's like, what call are you going to make? Maybe you're driving by all those brand new cars, and you're in yours, and you're looking like, what? Look at that. They're financing for 10 years now. What call are you going to make? But maybe you're home late and there's nobody around, and you're going through the channels and there's the adult channels. What call are you going to make? Or you're handed a drink that has been devastating your family for decades. What call are you going to make? And what it is are we living out this practical thing called self-control? Or are we just reacting and doing what we want in the moment? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to look at the book of John to kind of see the story of Jesus showing what self-control looks like. So if you want to open up your Bibles, that'd be great. You can go to the book of John. If you open up right in the middle and start going to the right, you'll eventually get to Matthew, Mark, Luke, then John, and you can go to chapter 8. If you don't have your Bible this morning and you have a smartphone, you can go to the RLC app and follow the message notes, or don't worry, we also will have it on the screens for you. But we're just going to check out this story. And I promise you, no matter what your relationship is with Jesus right now or what you think about God, if you live out what Jesus does right here, man, you will be better. It will help you, not just in yourself, but with the relationships that you have around you. So let's check out what John writes here in chapter 8. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. Teacher, they said, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. And I want us to see this story because I think we've maybe heard this before, or we've read it before, or someone's just brought it up before, and we don't have the right image of what's going on. We think of like Smallville courthouse, of this polite little judgment scene. But that's not what is happening here. This is loud. This is a mob that has brought a woman that they're trying to trap Jesus and kill her. And there is anger and there is hate, and it is not a quiet scene. And the emotions are high. And Jesus does something remarkable. he just stoops down and begins to write in the dirt. Now, I can't tell you what he wrote in the dirt. It never tells us what he wrote in the dirt. That would be an amazing thing to find out. But what is awesome and we can see is he did not say a word. He just stooped down and began to write in the dirt because he knew something. He knew of a power of a couple of things. And the first is stop. You don't have to react to the mob. You don't have to react to the emotion that's put right in front of you, no matter what it is. You don't have to. You can stop so that you can begin to process what's going on. And sometimes that's really hard to do. Like when your child has said mom for the 1,000th time, okay? Mom, 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 mom. And I just made you think of it right there. And you're like, don't go towards the emotion. Hold on. Or when you get the phone call that says, hey, you know what? I know it's again, but I'm going to be late from work. And you want to say something, but hold on. Or maybe your boss continues to demean you in front of other coworkers and you just want to react. Stop. Because see, what happens when we are people that have self-control, we actually, just like Jesus, gain control of the situation. See, people who react let the situation escalate and it's owned by someone else other than you. But if you stop, don't react, you have now just taken control. Let's see what Jesus does with that. Fools vent their anger, but the wise quietly hold it back. See, he does this. This is what Jesus is doing. He's living out a proverb. He knows the importance of stopping. Fools always react, and you can see it, and you know it because you've been it. But the wise, they take a moment. They quietly hold back whatever their initial reaction is. So Jesus stoops down, and then he does this in John 8. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. See, he just gets up very shortly, very quickly, and used powerful words, but a few words. See, our first reaction generally is when it's our turn to speak or when we cut in to speak, man, we create a monologue. And we just go after whatever's happening. But what Jesus does is say, I just need a few words because I know the power of words. I don't need many, and I don't need them to be in anger. So I will use few. Because you and I both know words are pretty powerful, aren't they? They have the ability to just build up or destroy, to bring life or to bring death. And we know this because all of us have been in elementary school and said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that's a lie that we've said to someone who just hurt us. Because words have the ability to shape things and shape us. That's why I don't know if you're like me in this way. If I get a card that has words of encouragement, man, I will hold on to that for years as a bookmark, something at my desk, because I need those words, because they build up. I've made it a practice just with my kids as we're going to school. I always tell my daughter, her name is Lindley, I just say, you are smart, you are creative, and you are beautiful. And most of all, I love you. And with my son, I just say, you are strong, you are friendly, you are handsome, and most of all, I love you. Because I know that there is going to be days when people are going to use words that bring them down, and I need them to know that they have words of value that are much bigger. Because words are powerful. So Jesus does that. He uses just this short phrase, and it's very powerful to de-escalate the situation. And that's what happens as we continue to see the story. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. These words brought the mob mentality down. It brought the emotions down that they had to reflect. Each individual person had to reflect and say, man, if I haven't sinned, then I can throw this stone. But they have to drop them. Because he stops the emotion with powerful words that bring life. And see, when you do that, when you live that out in your situations, you will always get the best possible outcome you can in a situation. And that's what happens next, because if Jesus did not use those words, if he did not react with self-control, he would never have this powerful moment that's just with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Man, if he would have reacted, if he would have gotten emotional, if he wouldn't have had self-control, he would have never had the best part of this story. And that is to speak life into this woman. That is to be able to say, I know what you've done, but I love you. Go and live this out all of your days. Go and be like me. Go and be what I modeled. Something changed, and it's all because he had self-control. Because when we do that, we get those moments. We get to change lives. We get to speak into others' lives, and our relationships begin to build, not just with others, but with God. It reminds me of the other day, I was with my son. We went to the fire station for a field trip, it's crazy going to a field trip with kindergartners at a fire station, because they're like all over the place. But they love, the hose, they love the truck, they want to drive it, they see all this stuff. But there's this important thing that happens at the end, and that is to talk about fire safety. Now, I'm sure it's not their favorite part of it, but it's really important. And they go to the simple step that always happens. If you get fire on you, what are you supposed to do? Well done. The firemen would be proud of you. They would. They would have clapped for you right there. You know it. It's that simple, but it's really important. Because it's critical if you have a fire on you to stop. Because when you stop, you're not giving the fire air to breathe. If you run around and you're escalating the situation, the fire gets bigger. Stop. Get down and roll out the fire so it will be gone. That's what self-control does with our actions and our words. Because it gives us a moment not to escalate things, but to de-escalate and to take control of situations. So what I wanted to do is just give 2 simple words that all of us can do whenever we're faced with a choice, which is honestly all the time. And that is stop and think. All right, say it with me. Stop and think. It's really easy. It's really simple. We just need to stop. When something comes your way and you see the emotion or it raises the emotion in you, stop. You don't have to react. You don't have to immediately say something, even if someone's telling you you have to. You don't. Stop. Get your mind right. And then think. And think is an acrostic here. This is something that I heard from another staff member, and his wife watches kids and she uses this. And I'm like, this is brilliant. I wish all adults knew this. We have to think. If you're going to do something or say something, filter it through. As you stopped, if what you're about to say is not true, don't say it. Just stop. Don't do it. But if you come and the action you're about to do or the word you're going to say, make sure that it's helpful. Is it actually going to help what's going on or help the others around us? If not, stop. Is what you're going to do inspiring? Is it going to model something that you would say, I want everyone around me to see and do? Is the words you're going to use so inspiring of love and grace and truth that you would want others to repeat it? Necessary. We do a lot of things and say a lot of things that aren't necessary. Just think about it. Do I have to do this to help the situation? And I think the biggest one, kind. Kind needs to filter through all of them, because you can say true things and still be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. Kind needs to go through all of them. If what I'm doing and what I'm saying, kind. And see, this is what self-control looks like. This is what Jesus modeled. It's just broken down in an acrostic. Is I'm going to help people live the best life they possibly can, modeled after him. He says, stop. And we say, think. Now, I saw the other day as I was picking up some food at Lucille's, which is what Californians call barbecue, just to let you know. And I was there because it was the option. And I heard something as I was picking up the food. I'm waiting there in the lobby area. And there is a disgruntled customer. I mean, if you could imagine a disgruntled customer at a restaurant, that's what's happening over there. And it's getting louder. I mean, you would think someone just stole the person's car. I'm really not sure what happened, but it's getting louder. And my food comes up to take to go, and I'm like, this is better than a movie. I got to check this out. Like, do you have any popcorn, anything? Because I'm not leaving yet. So I'm like, okay, I'm just watching. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And the manager comes in. Now, this is important because this manager can escalate or de-escalate really quick. And what happened was amazing. The manager doesn't say a word, just listens. And intently listens enough that the customer's voice starts getting lower. And then they move to the side to the point where you can't hear him yelling anymore. And then eventually he walks out fairly calmly. Now, I don't know if she bribed him. I don't know what happened. But what I do know is that could have gone a different way. But she had the ability to stop and think through this and do what is wise and have self-control. And you could tell the moment she was there, she now controlled the situation. And what if we did that? What if every choice we were faced with, every conversation that we had, whether work or at home, we had self-control? I promise you, you would be a better version of you, and I would be a better version of me. And the relationships around us would be better. We can do this. We have to put this in practice, though. We have to stop and think. That's what I'm going to challenge us all to do. No matter what's going on, no matter what this week looks like, this month, this year, and so on. Let's find better ways to gain self-control of all of our situations. So whether that's your child gets benched by the coach and you don't like it, before you do something dumb, stop and think. If that means with your boss, who you make look good day in and day out but get no recognition, before you do something you're going to regret, stop and think. Or whether that's with your spouse or your kids, and they do that one habit over and over, and your emotions just want to speak, stop and think. Or even right now, as you're going to leave into a parking lot full of cars, stop and think. Could you imagine what the world could look like if we all just had self-control like Jesus and lived that out? Let's pray together. Father, we thank you. We thank you that not just that Jesus came, but that while he was here, he lived a life to show us what real humanity looks like, what great relationships look like, what truth and beauty look like. And we know that having self-control is going to help us, but man, we just want to go after the reaction and the emotion. Help us not. Help us stop. Help us think. Help us live a life like Jesus. Because we know if we've accepted Jesus, we're a follower of Jesus, we have your spirit within us. And that's one of the fruit of it, is just self-control. Help us live that out. And we thank you that you've modeled it. And again, right now, we thank you for your grace, your love, that Jesus would come and die for us. In his amazing name, we say amen.